Hey, what's good, everyone? Twisted here with Open Sorcery, and today I want to go ahead and talk about a particular symbol called the Tetramorph, which in of itself is a fourfold representation of the divine, or in this case, humanity in a sense. Now, to actually get into the gist of what exactly the Tetramorph is, for those who are not acquainted with or aware of what it is, pretty much the Tetramorph symbolizes or encapsulates what are the four elements when it comes to Western Abrahamic spirituality, magic, religion, and so on, whether it be Christianity, Judaism, potentially even Islam, and those particular subset of, once again, belief systems, religions, anything that is within those lines, parallels, associated, blends in, whatever. Now, in relation to that, right, this particular pictorial representation, when used in a more so biblical sense, or at least when it comes to its origins, biblically speaking, in all of that, it was used to describe the angels that are dubbed as the cherubim, or cherubim, if you're going ahead and more so using the Judaic pronunciation, or what have you. Of course, I do not necessarily know Hebrew, but I'm just doing my best and probably butchering it nonetheless. But in any case, the Tetramorph is, once again, the personification of these four elements, or having more so of a, not just human personification, but also like referencing animals as representations of these elements, as this conglomerate of these balanced forces and such, you can say. And in them being, once again, four, so that prefix of tetra, meaning four, for those who do not necessarily know the origin of the Greek, what have you, but the four in of itself, four heads, right? And each of these heads, when we go ahead and look at it from a, symbolic standpoint, represents the four fixed signs in the zodiac and their elemental associations. So, and actually going ahead and talking about those, right? You have the head of a bull, which is representative of Taurus in the earth element in the zodiacal progression, that is the first one that comes along. Secondly, you have the lion, which is Leo in the fire element in terms of the second fixed sign in this case. Then you have the eagle, which is representative of Scorpio in its higher form, as opposed to what the name more so leans to of the scorpion, which is more so water-based, and the eagle being representative of the water element, and man being Aquarius, the water bearer, and the air element in this case, in regards to the usual zodiacal associations. However, I will go ahead and state, though, that in relation to this particular symbol of the Tetramorph, right, in being that we are using the eagle itself and man, who in the symbolic representation of Aquarius is the water bearer, I'm going to go ahead and state that if for any reason you wish to symbolically exchange the elemental associations for the eagle, or aka Scorpio, or man, aka Aquarius the water bearer, for magical workings or reflection, insight, meditation, whatever the case may be, based on if it feels intuitively appropriate or correct, then I say go for it. Because, there are those hints right there. There are those notions. And if it feels proper to do so, go for it. And the same you can say for just about any single particular spiritual task, practice, aim that you may have in other different regards. But in this case, that one's kind of like, it could go either or. It's kind of right there directly in your face. Nevertheless, the Tetramorph also is symbolically ingrained to the four canonical Gospels in the New Testament of the Bible. So once again, it being associated, and this is more so where it leans into Christianity, because the New Testament is aligned with, Christianity more so. There are some sects of Judaism and, of course, Islam that recognize it, but it's more so like housed within Christianity itself. So, in regards to how the Tetramorph is utilized in that way, it is associated with their credited authors of each of those Gospels, being Matthew, so man and air, Mark, the lion and fire, Luke, the bull or ox and earth, and also finally John, which is associated with the eagle and water in terms of those traditional associations. Now, the thing about it is that in mentioning originally that the Tetramorph is or has been used as a symbolic representation of angels under the class of cherubim, that when we go ahead and think about angels, right? And this is something that I likely have gone ahead and covered to some extent in previous iterations or entries into the open sorcery. But when we think about angels, what are they? Now, a lot of people have their particular perspective, whether it's due to a particular belief system or just what they've been exposed to in the media, in the visual representations or the literature about angels, that they are, divine beings that, pre-existed humanity and serve God. They go ahead and serve the divine, what have you, and are messengers. And in that sense, there is a truth to it. But also at the same time, in more so having a relatable sense with angels, they are more so of the next evolutionary phase or rung on said evolutionary ladder for what we humans are to go ahead and become. That applies to not only just regular angels, but archangels as well. This is something that's been mentioned in Max Heindal's Rosicrucian Christianity lectures and Angels in Factors of Our Human Evolution. I believe that is the title of the particular part in which he mentions it, something along those lines. But it's also mentioned other esoterically oriented material as well. And once again, right, angels and archangels, in a sense, are elevated beings that are just further along in their, the rung on the evolutionary ladder, or you can say Jacob's ladder, to use biblical symbolism and representation. With this being in mind, right, the symbolic figure of the Tetramorph doesn't just apply to angelic beings, but to us as humans as well. We are mirroring that. They, in that sense, if we're going ahead and looking to them up higher on the evolutionary ladder, then we got to say, okay, where did they come from? Okay, they went ahead and in some way, shape, or form, in a relatable basis, were associated with and came from some sort of human-like experience and such at some point in time. And so on and so forth for beings that, you could say are lower on the evolutionary ladder or higher up on the evolutionary ladder, even past the points of angels and archangels and so on and so forth. So, that being said, we embody the four core elements in the Western framework of things, but we embody those core elements: fire, water, air, earth. Plus also the fifth element in the Western models of aether, which is more so like a less defined, more so pure element, you can say, just for lack of better terms, or at least trying to relate it to the others. But aether being highlighted in other things such as the symbol of the pentagram, or in particular for a personified sort of representation, Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man. Now, that is something that I've gone ahead and covered previously on the Open Sorcery in a particular section of a talk monologue subject known as, a rose-shaped star, Venus, Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, and the lunar solar eclipse, the solar eclipse in Scorpio. My bad. That was a while back, and I'll put a link in the YouTube posting of this for those who wish to go ahead and listen to that. And whatever I had to say at the moment about the Vitruvian Man. Nevertheless, though, so we are embodying these elements once again, and in that sort of manner, we can go ahead and utilize this symbol of the Tetramorph to go ahead and help us in trying to access these manners of the elements in a means of balancing oneself, or even if it's focusing on one particular head and using that as a pathway, a visual in terms of mental visualization, imagining, visualizing in your mind's eye, and all of that for trying to tap into that aspect and such, depending on your particular usage, use case, or whatever the case may be. Or even if it's not necessarily some sort of magical shit, some sort of spiritual, occult, esoteric shit, even just for general reflection in of itself, contemplation, just sitting with something. Now, when it comes to that, right, and using that as a manner to invoke and envisioning these various aspects for yourself, I do have a particular recommendation of something that can be done and how it can be utilized. So, in that sort of sense, and doing whatever sort of magical, spiritual working or meditation in this case, this in of itself is very useful, once again, for that balanced approach of all the elements. So, when you are taking some time to meditate, go ahead and, when you're sitting down or laying down, doing whatever, visualize the symbol of the Tetramorph, the four heads. So once again, the bull, the lion, the eagle, and man on this particular angelic being or whichever representation that you happen to go ahead and find, which there are plenty available on the internet or some sort of, different things that have been generated over time or made, artistic representations and so on. But using that as a basis, go ahead and visualize within your mind's eye this figure, this symbol. And in doing so, go one at a time through each head. And in doing so, go ahead and focus on that particular head and whatever the associated element that it either has traditionally or you are giving unto it, allow it to emanate from that head into your being from outside of you. So for example, picture the lion's head, then have the radiant warmth wash all over you from that flame, that fire element, and using that usual association. Allow for it to engulf you, wash all over your being, and also be absorbed into you. Whether it be from the top of your head all the way downward, whether it be into your heart center, the center of your chest, where your heart tends to be, or, for those who are well versed when it comes to the chakras, going ahead and having that right there, that heart center, get the fire, the warmth itself, and then being able to spread it to the rest of your body through various channels and means, energetically, if you want to envision the veins that run across your body and all that carry blood, or the nervous system and all the particular sort of nerve endings that happen to go through. Whatever it is that works for you, allow that flame from Leo the lion, that particular head right there, to go ahead and emulse you, go ahead and empower you, and then take that exact sort of manner of meditation visualization with that, and then move on to the next head. So in that case, whether it be, say, the eagle, right? Go ahead and allow the gust winds that are not too overpowering and detrimental to you, but you can feel, the breeze, you can feel that push of force from the air enter you from top of your head or the center of your body, to go ahead and be able to then emanate throughout your being. And once again, the same goes for the heads of the man as well as the head of the bull and their elemental associations. And do that, for however long you deem appropriate or is comfortable for you, until you're satisfied and content with that, with the energy work and meditation and visualization that you are doing. So, with that having been said, pretty much that's all I wanted to cover in relation to the Tetramorph, not only in just summarizing it, but utilizing it as a tool in a practical way to go ahead and be able to use this symbol for your own betterment, to be able to go ahead and utilize it as a means to interact and interface with not only just the divine, you can say, but yourself as well, in whatever sort of ideas tend to pop in listening to me go ahead and speak on it, or whatever sort of research that you do independently of my monologue and talking about it and all that sort of shit. So, that having been said, this has been Twisted with Open Sorcery, and stay frosty, Neguses. Peace.